Welcome back to Pro League, everybody, live in the Next One Arena. KT doing quite well here against SKT on the back of stats. Looking for that all kill. He's got 3 in a row. And now SKT only has one more chance to come back.
Classic would have been a good choice earlier. I don't think he's good enough to beat Life going to this. Other players, they might choose... Well, it's going to be Classic. All right. So... if they sent Sue, Sue has a better chance of ZVZing Life, but I don't think that Sue could beat Stats. I think Classic could beat Stats, but I don't think he could beat Life.
Yeah.
This is a problem, and the Life is not the only other player they have left to choose from. They've got 2 other players they could choose from, so keep that in mind also.
That's the problem you put yourself in, the place you put yourself in when you're behind 1-3. And me and you were talking during the break, and we were just saying Classic should have been the guy from map number 2 up against Stats. Or rather, the second guy that comes up against Stats on map number 3. After Dark went down. I think that PvP, getting it out of the way right away would have been better. Maybe put himself in a better position, possibly take out Stats, this monster over here. Already 3 kills in a row and just looking unstoppable. And at this point, we're saying, like, Classic is really good at PvP, but you're facing Stats, a guy who's really confident already, but he's got 3 kills behind him. He just took out Innovation and made it look easy.
And you're playing against Stats on King Sejong Station as well. Yeah. God, I guess, you know, I wouldn't want to play against Stats with Sue on King Sejong Station either. I feel like the follow-ups that we're going to see, you know, Life almost certainly, as well as other terrifying players we might end up seeing, are the scary things here. This match is just the first step of 3 that they will have to take in order to take this. And Stats is just already with a smile on his face, ready for that all kill. That's what he wants.
Yeah. They were talking about it in the chat. Classic's like, all I got to do is stop the all kill. This is my duty as an SKT member. But Stats, he's going for those 4 kills in a row. Can Classic put a stop to it and possibly bring SKT back? Let's jump into it right now. After 1 minute.
All right, we got a minute and 7 seconds left to go before this starts. Who's your vote for this one, Valdez?
I think I'm going to go with Classic, actually.
I'm going to go with Classic as well. I'm glad that you and I are brave enough to say that, because I think a lot of people would say take that momentum of Stats here and go with it. But I say Classic here. I think he will do this. He has to do this. He has so much pressure on him, but in recent times, Classic has been so brave, and he has actually been so bold in interviews and very confident. He's actually shaken off some of the weak nerves that he's had in the past. I feel like he's sitting in the booth saying, like you said in the chat, you were saying in the chat, you know, this is my duty, and this is what I will do. I will stop you. Yeah. Come what may. I don't know who's coming next, but I will win this Pro House Pro. This is my job, and I'm going to do it.
And behind that, it's his best matchup, I think, especially in recent times. He has shown so many great PvP games. I'm pretty sure Stats hasn't had the time to study that. I'm not sure if he knew he was going to go up against Classic here, so even though he has a lot of recent PvP games, Stats hasn't really been able to study it, but let's see if it matters here going into this game, Classic versus Stats. Down here in the bottom right in the red, it is Classic.
And his opponent in the top left in blue is, for KT, it's Stats. I was going to say for Stats, it's KT, but 4-1.
Lose of SKT.
We saw a sign earlier we didn't get to talk about. It was really cool. Just somebody talking about how this is the best rivalry StarCraft's ever had. Is these 2 telecom teams, and he had it stylized to where it had both the SKT style and the KT logo together. Now, I feel like a lot of people were thinking Classic going into this one might do that proxy that he's known to do on this map. Look at that. 51-49
Whoa.
in favor of Classic.
Whoa. So Classic does get the favor, but by 2% at that.
That is insane. I feel like this needs to be a thing for all of Pro League forever.
Yeah, man. This should not just be a playoffs thing.
This is so cool. I mean, who knows how many people are actually even voting? It could be thousands. I have no idea. That's even if it's literally only the people in this studio. That's a great pool of people to pull from. That's so cool.
Yeah,
that makes me feel really hyped, actually.
Yeah. It's just an incredibly close matchup. All the stuff we were talking about before, Classic, it's his strongest matchup. He's really good in this one, but stats, he's also pretty strong just all around, and he's becoming almost like another hero at that. You were talking about that, you know. He could, the way he looked in that game, especially against Innovation, the way he shut him down, it really reminded me, as well as you, of Hero. Yeah, and he's just becoming that super all-around, just strong in every single matchup kind of guy, and with 3 wins on his back, he's got so much momentum, so it really does make things really, really close.
Sure. I mean, we were talking about this, and I was being, very real. I was just going to say this to you privately, but I will say it. I feel like, if you're a player like Innovation, you have a lot of praise, and you just wreck players left and right. But when you have to fight the high caliber, like the highest, the purest of the pure, best process in the world, that style just does not work. It just doesn't. It's like, okay, I already know what you're going to do. You're Innovation. And I'm just going to stop you. I'm going to poke you, and you're going to fall down. You're going to fall to pieces. And I worry for SKT of how they've approached this match today. I have a lot more faith in Classic than I had in Innovation. A ton more. As I said before, so much so to favor him, as you do. 2-gate versus 2-gate here. A hidden second gateway here in the main base of stats. He probably will find it, but it's nerve-wracking, actually. He's like, oh, is that soccer about to pop out and kill me?
Yeah, do you commit this probe to the scouting, or do you risk losing it? Or rather, do you get out of there safely? And he does miss that third pylon, actually, getting over there on the left side. But he does see the 2 gates, so he should know what build this is.
Yeah, with the 2 gates, you're not as concerned about a follow-up tech. You're definitely not as concerned about a proxy tech. So, 2 Stalkers being rushed out here, whereas back at home for Classic, he's going down the Sentry route. Oh, no, he went the Sentry first into the 2 Stalkers. Okay. Whereas Stats has gone Stalker into Stalker after what looks to be a Blink opening. So it's going to be 2 different paths to Blink for both players. I don't think we're going to see a Dark Shrine here for either. Although that is a suspicious Classic probe out there to the right side.
Yeah, and he also did go for that Sentry, which, kind of tells you he wants to play a little bit more defensive. The one thing he did skip here is actually that Mothership Core. And he's putting that gas, in fact, into a robotics facility instead.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really interesting.
And with the builds here of Stats, this is just like a very streamlined, straightforward Blink build off of 2 gates. Putting down that 3rd gate, he begins to chrono boost his Blink, and he's just going to try to take good trades with Blink at the front, whereas Classic, he's got the really interesting build here.
I think he's, I don't know. He's not using his Poly Council at all.
Sentry here is for scouting, I guess. He's going to forego that force field, that 1 force field he would get, or possibly 2, a little bit later on, to just see exactly what Stats is doing. And he's going to have his answer, but he doesn't have a Mothership Core for a Photon Overcharge. It's one of the main things that you want to get out to defend against Blink. But I guess he does have that robotics facility, which is going to be good for getting out of Mortals, but he's got to start chrono boosting them out fast. And
he's actually in a great position. He has to survive the first wave, but with Blink of his own, not too far behind, if he can survive the first wave, which is going to need to micro perfectly, or he's going to have an arc at the top to do so, like taking these trades definitely helps, then he's going to be in a great position because he can just take a Nexus. The one thing that he's worried about right now, which he luckily does have a probe on, is he just making a Nexus, and am I playing too safe? That's why this probe is so important, because he can come over here and see if there's a Nexus up or not. He's going to see that there's not, and he's going to get a second Immortal. Well, actually, when he sees this probe, he's probably just going to check and wait. He starts the Immortal anyways and can eventually push down the ramp. He's still staying at the top of his ramp right now just to be safe, but if he didn't have this probe, this would be so scary right now. And he's going to see the Nexus now. Nice.
This is going to be interesting because it does open up a timing here for Classic to possibly put on some pressure, but he could also just go for a Nexus as well because he saw the Stalkers out there. He may assume with that Phoenix especially, he's going for robotics tech on the back of this. He already got Blink, so maybe I just match him here. I have 1 extra Immortal, and the build turns out a little bit better, and that's what he's going to do here.
He actually got that pylon too, and funny as it is, Stats was already supply blocked at that point, and he still is. He needs 2 pylons. Okay, for a second there I was like, is he just not going to make it? Then I need to make 2 more pylons before he can make any more units, including probes. So missing some production time here because Immortals cost 4 supply, and when you're making Immortals in PvP, as well as every Protoss unit costs at least 2 supply besides probes and observers, you do get supply block pretty quick, so losing a pylon like that can really actually throw a wrench in your gears. Faster forge here too for Classic because he knows he's just slightly ahead. He knows he can take this tiny little risk. He can take this little extra 150 minerals and the 100 gas he's going to spend, of course, with the 100 more minerals into that +1 attack. Oh boy, with the blink here, he's going to snipe an observer too. Ooh, that is huge.
Oh my god. Classic is just getting farther and farther ahead. This is why we favored this guy in this matchup. He's just one of these very innovation... what's the word? Innovative. One of these very innovative Protosses that are just coming out with these newer builds that are just getting him so far ahead, especially when the other Protoss is not able to punish you for it, and he is just in a great position, even opening up enough robotics facility time to make a second observer. So he can keep one over his army, deny a lot of scouting, and scout the whole base of his opponent.
Yeah, the two things of note here to me are the skipping the Mothership Core like you're talking about, get that faster robo, and the probe. The probe that he hides super far across the map has so much potential to do different things. If he scouts something early on, before his Twilight Council is done, he can go DTs if his opponent's doing some weird Stargate build or is, going DTs himself, and then he can just get a robo and then go his own DTs and win the game. And then he can go and send and scout for the Nexus, which is so important when you're going for the exact same build as your opponent. So that was cool. And I really, really like how he's kind of decided to spend that probe, to scout with that probe. And like you were saying, then deflecting the Observer, now actually escaping with his own. He's played this very, very well.
Yeah, and as is the way of PvP nowadays, we enter this mid-game where even though Classic got slightly ahead there with this build, it was a very nice build, but we are going to kind of sit here and see both these players kind of power up on 2 base and eventually go to 3 base, and usually what happens is the Protoss that gets a little bit more greedy than the other will actually come out ahead. The guy that puts down that second robo first, maybe the guy who takes the 3rd base first, because that transition into Tempest is just kind of non-existent after the nerf, and kind of makes it very one-dimensional here in PvP.
Exactly. We don't see Archon Charge Zealot as a big player, as a build or as a composition in this current meta. And frankly, I don't know if that's a good thing, but I mean, a lot of things were basically removed from the game with this last patch. Legacy is knocking on the doorstep, but I don't think we're going to be really seeing that in WCS this year. Or Pro League for that matter, so definitely something to think about for much later. This is going to be a big commitment to Blink when you know your opponent doesn't have an Observer and you do. You can actually get away with things like this. If he snipes this robo, that would be huge. He's going to try to go for the Mothership Core. Can't stick around here.
Yeah. Well, he's going to get 1 pylon and the second one there, in fact. So not bad, just a little bit of damage. He does, of course, force that army back as well as a photon overcharge. So just trying to get a very, very slight advantage when it's very hard to do so in this matchup.
And as he was doing that, he sent Hallucinated Phoenix across the map at the same time because he lost his Observer, which is almost an inevitable thing when you're doing a build or when you're doing a move like this. And he was able to check the 3rd base timing. He knows exactly that. It's basically about 15 seconds, in-game seconds ahead. So he knows he's in a pretty good spot for 3rd base timings as well. And he's ahead in +2.
That he is. He's actually moving out on the map here, stats is. Don't really know if he's going to go for a push yet, but he's threatening it, and even that Phoenix does see it. Well, now we just see him throw down the Templar Archive, so I doubt we're going to see a push. Maybe just some more harass with these Blink Stalkers.
Yeah. I think, he just has his vision with the Observer. He's going to try to kill an Assimilator. Wow, even Probe's off the line here. He's so stressed by this. What is that actually? What is that building? It's a Templar Archive he has to cancel.
Forces a cancel. He kills 3 probes, and he gets a photon overcharge. So if you think about that Mothership Core, you can actually look at it right now. It's probably down to I'll check it, 50 energy. I mean, it's got to be pretty low at this point in time. Whereas
66.
Whereas the one of Classic is actually building up a lot of energy. 2 time warps to 1. That's also a very slight advantage you can get in the big engagements a little bit later on.
Yeah, he's much closer to that. Just seeing hallucinations being used here for scouting, a little bit more reliable than observers. Not as omnipresent and not useful for blinks and spotting, but definitely good for getting ideas about probe saturation, like did you take your gas? Is that your 3rd? Are you sitting on your 3rd? How many Archons did you make? Like, these types of questions matter. Is your +2 done yet? Mine is. Okay, that's the kind of question where, like, okay, well, I have this slight lead, so I'm definitely going to have +3 faster if I chrono boost properly. These kind of questions he's asking right now. How many Zealots are you making? Can I find a Warp Prism? Are you thinking about doing Warp Prism harass? Are you making cannons at your third base? Like, these are the kind of questions that are asked in this mid-game PvP because, like you said, it's kind of a sit back and be greedy. But when you have these hallucinations, you can find these little information like, okay, I noticed you didn't make any cannons at your third base. Boom, I could do Zealot harass when you move out there because I know there's no cannons. I could do DT harassment potentially, you know, if he ends up adding that Dark Shrine later. These kinds of information that he's getting, Classic is doing a little bit more consistently, I feel, here than Stats.
Yeah, would have to agree with you there. Looks like Stats actually confident enough to move out on the map. He is going to catch one Stalker. And the rest of the Stalkers actually a little bit out of position there towards the left side. But Stats also, you just have to kind of group up here. Looks like Classic going to be the first guy to try to transition into double robotics play. So Classic just sitting back here. He wants to start getting 2 Colossi out at a time. And that is a very slight, very small window for Stats to maybe put on some pressure.
Yeah, just looking at this exact situation, this pylon sniper with the Observer is so huge. I don't think he has a Warp Prism with this army. He does not. So that's the only pylon he's going to have for now. So it limits his ability to harass and come to the other side. He's attacking into these rocks, which is going to buy, again, a lot of time here for Classic to get in position to get his Colossi into an arc. And with no Tempest in play in this current patch, I don't think attacking to this location is the right choice. He's just opening up another pathway he's threatening.
Yeah, exactly. Do have a bit of Warp Prism harass coming out of Classic now towards the left side of the map. I do not see the Mothership Core with this army. I guess it's at home defending. That's what I would have to assume.
Oh, it came a bit late. It's just coming to the back.
Okay. So the drop coming in here for Classic. There is a bit of a warp in now.
Yeah,
actually, a blink now trying to get that Warp Prism, but will survive.
I guess he warped in those Stalkers to try to get the Warp Prism, but it's going to escape, and this is some nice harassment here, whereas meanwhile in the middle of the map, Stats hasn't been able to accomplish anything with this army. It's just kind of out there.
Yeah, and he's forcing Warpins back at home while he's got double Colossi now popping out at this moment in time.
4 more Zealots warping in to do another drop. He wants to continue to commit to this. And this Colossus is actually going to come back and defend. Small Blink Stalker Force actually uses 100% or 100 energy of that Mothership Core to defend, so that's actually pretty important.
Look at this Stats. He's trying to fight this Blink Stalker to Blink Stalker, and he's got 2 of his Colossi back at home.
Oh, is Warp Prism full of 4 Zealots?
Oh, he's not going to get it. He's got another Blink on the way, but that Warp Prism survives for now. Looks like it's already on its way to fly into a cannon, so it doesn't really matter. Oh. +3 going to finish up here for both players now.
Was that Dark Shrine I was talking about? I think Dark Shrine is an excellent asset in late game PvP because sometimes you can just win games if you find out your opponent doesn't have protection, but you can harass with it so much with Zealots.
You catch their Observer, you make Dark Templar. It's the creator build against Zest, in that big late game army engagements. You can actually do that because all that robotics time is used on Colossi and Immortals.
Oh my god, this is going to be it! Time Warp goes down! Catching 2 of those Archons. They do survive. But this is a big moment.
Trying to go for the feedback, he gets it! He gets the feedback. Insane. There's going to be no time warps here for Stats.
Yep, and an Immortal walking in here is so important. He needs to target that if he can. The Colossi here for Stats are actually getting into a good position with the Archons at the front, the tank as well. It looks like he might just have too much. He breaks through.
He's going to do it. Just a better position there from Stats. He's somehow going to win that big fight. And he's going to take down Classic.
And don't forget, a ton of those Zealots were out of position at the top of the map harassing, and they were gone for this fight. And I think that's part of what happens here. He didn't have enough tanking for those Colossi. There they are. They're not fighting here.
Nexus going to come down. Dark Templar going to be warped in as a last resort, but he's got an Observer. And Stats, he's going to do it the reverse not the reverse all kill here 4 in a row. And the win for KT Rolster.
Yeah, it's not a pure all kill. It's not a starter all kill, but it's still an all kill.
Yep.
4 in a row. Taking them down. We've seen so many all kills actually in the first day of playoffs in the past. And we're seeing it here again. Ooh!
Double 4 fists.
Lining them up and slicing them.
All kills.
He all kills. He does.
Oh, man.
He did get all 4 kills for KT Rolster here.
That he did. Dark able to take out Flash in the beginning, but Stats 4 in a row. And you really got to hand it to him. That is so hard to do against this high caliber of a team in SK Telecom. And KT Rolster, they're going to move on.
And if you see, if you look at the coach of KT is wearing that pin. They are the champions of last season. Defending it there. Classics got a GSL pin. Was able to take that fight, though. A really, really great PvP, a really fun one to watch. But, to be honest, Valdez, if I want to put my closing thoughts on today's match, SKT's preparation, the choices they made, I just feel like it wasn't solid. The decision-making more than preparation, I should say, just can't agree with it. And I have to say that with KT, we don't even know what their plans were because Stats just all killed everybody. Yeah,
pretty much. They just didn't have an answer for one player. I would agree with you there. I think the order in which the players came out and certain players that got used for SKT weren't the greatest of choices, but whatever they had planned did not work out, and that is the end of the story here. KT's going to move on. They're going to have to face Jin Air, which at this moment in time, I feel like they're actually a harder opponent than SKT is actually.
You know what I was telling you actually literally before we even walked into the studio? I said, I feel like SKT wins this, but in this format, somebody like Stats can win the whole thing. And that just, I literally said those words to you right before we came here. It's just, this format doesn't do well for SKT. It doesn't do well for their players. And when they send someone like Sari out for a snipe, it just feels like, I don't know, it just feels like they're thinking too deep.
Desperate or something. Yeah.
It's like,
something too deep. It's like,
maybe we'll make him nervous or something. Maybe he'll mess it up. But no, it just didn't happen that way.